Hi guys, Billy here again, just getting set up. I'm not going to go in with all that waffle. Just making sure everything's nice and safe around me saw, making sure there's no obstructions, that kind of thing. Nothing that can get in the way. Who likes me sketchbooks? You know, you can support the channel by buying these off the website. It doesn't matter if you're not. Less of me plugging myself, and let's get down to the action. So, I've got an idea of this type of box that's in my head, and I wanted to put some new design elements on it, and I wanted to try out some new sort of skills and that kind of thing. Now, what you're seeing here is not what you sort of get at the end, so please stick with the video and watch to the end, because this by far was one of the projects I've learned most from out of a lot of the projects I've done. Just checking the 8x1 pine here for making sure it's not too bent and twisted, and that board there is actually quite good, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm just marking everything up. I'm just going to do some cutting. So yeah, this project, I started out wanting to build a certain style of box with some design elements, and it didn't turn out like that. It went more of a traditional sort of vibe in the end, but I did try out some new features with it, which went really well, and I really enjoyed this build. It was one of them builds, I don't know if you get it, where you start making something. I mean, we all enjoy what we do, but it was one of them things where, as it went on, I was getting more and more into it, more enjoying it, and the more things were challenging me, the more I was more determined to get it right. Now, I'll show in the overview video as well the sort of defects with it, but honestly, you've got to look for them. I'm so over the moon with this project. I really did test myself with this, and I really enjoyed it. And this is woodworking in a nutshell, isn't it? It's just one of the best hobbies. It's just really, it gives you that sense of fulfillment. It doesn't matter what you make, whether it's something really simple or, you get the guys that are world-class carpenters and joiners, and I bet you they get the same sort of thrill from it. So we're all getting that vibe, that sort of inner sort of, I don't know what you call it. What would you call it? Let me know in the comments what sort of vibe you get from woodworking, because I don't know. I've had various hobbies over the years. I mean, I love my antiques. I love doing that. That's my business. But this woodworking, it's just one of them things. So there I was just cutting up some mahogany from an old tabletop that I had, so I'm using all scrap mahogany on this build as well. I'm just changing the blade out here for a flat grind blade. I'll put links to all the tools I'm using. I'm going to change the link system as well. I'm going to try, now bear with me on this one, things I use actually on the video I will put links to below, rather than a load of links to various tools and stuff. I don't think that's the way forward I should go, so I'll just try and put links to all the tools. Might take me a few weeks to get that right, but bear with it. So I'm just cutting in some grooves here to accept the top and the bottom of the box. Now these, they're not decorative elements, the top and the bottom, because I will be covering them up as well, as you'll see further on in the video. So it's time for the gluing up here. Now, I cut them miters, and I weren't happy with the miters at all. Although they were better than my last set of miters I cut, but I'm still not happy with them. And this is how it goes. And it is where it started. I was getting really into it now. I'm thinking, what's swirling through my brain is, what can I do with them miters? How can I make it better? This is all I'm thinking now at this point. And I think I come up with a really good solution, something I've not tried before. And it turned out fantastically well, even though it weren't perfect, like I say. So I'm just going in with the glue. I am getting some glue spreaders. I've ordered some. I bought some glue spreaders and they were just no good. I couldn't get used to them. A simple thing like a glue spreader, I couldn't get used to it at all. So I've ordered some more, and I've seen a YouTube video where they cut like the bristles off the end, and they work perfectly. So I'm going to try that. So that wood there I'm using for the top and the bottom is sort of 3mm ply that Shelley uses for a lasering. So this all goes together fantastically well here. I line everything up, and I see where there's some bits of the miters that don't go sort of like perfectly. But like I say, it's the best miters I've done so far in all my projects. So in that respect, I'm happy. But I'm not happy because they're not perfect. So, and that's the way I am. Everybody's different. And I just like to get things sort of right. I know I'm never going to have the perfect project. And this is all part of the enjoyment, part of the enjoyment of what I do and why I do it. So I left it overnight. I've come back to it. I could have left it half an hour, but I left it overnight. Time was getting on a bit. And I'm now seeing it's nice and strong. So now I'm cutting in some grooves for some splines in the edges. You've seen me do this before. Now, my spline jig it was the first spline jig I made, and it works fine, but I'm going to do a video. I'm going to make another spline jig. I'm going to make a few jigs, actually. I'm going to make another table sled with all the bells and whistles at some point, and another spline jig. So rather than sort of tell you how this spline jig's made, you've seen the video anyway, I'd rather show you the upgraded one as and when I do the video, because I just want something a little bit better. I know I can do a bit better. So I'm just cutting the splines here with the same mahogany tabletop that I've had what I milled down, and I'm just cutting them to sort of like various sizes that'll fit. Just no rhyme and reason with the sizes there, to be perfectly honest with you. And I'm just gluing them in, which they fit nice. It's still cold here in the UK. I wish it would start warming up. We have the odd day it's a bit milder, but most of the time it's still absolutely freezing. And I know I'm saying freezing. I know sort of like some areas in the world are literally freezing, but it's cold. So I'm just trimming them down now. These were left to dry again. Just take it nice and easy. Just using my finger to control that blade there. That's that done. Now here's where I'm doing something different. I'm cutting in some skeleton splines onto it. So the thought behind this is adding more decorative effects, another skill to sort of master, and where them sort of miters are ever so slightly not right, it hides that. So let's see how we get on with that. So I'm just cutting, so I'm using the thin rip jig here. These are handy little tools to have, these thin rip jigs, just to get them sort of, dial them sort of thin cuts of wood in perfectly, and it makes things nice and safe around a table saw. It's another safety element. If you can get one, get one. They are really beneficial to your woodworking. So that's that. I'm just coming over now just to check that the fit's correct. Now it looks like I'm having a bit of a problem there getting them in, but honestly it's not. It's the way my hands are, the way I'm trying to do that, squash it in. So I'm just gluing everything up now. You'll see it goes in perfectly here now, once it's glued up. On one of the cuts on one of the skeleton splines, it went slightly off. And I will show that on the overview video, but it's one of them things where you sort of have to look for it, so you don't really notice it. But everything come out really well. For the first attempt at this, I was absolutely over the moon with it. I was really happy with it. It was like the inner child had just come out of me. Sort of like, I'm not getting all Shakespearean on you there, but I don't even know if that is Shakespeare, to be perfectly honest with you. But anyway, I was so over the moon with it. And again, I'm just going back now to, this is where I'm finding things in my head now to add to it. So I'm going back to the old tabletop. I've had so much wood off this old mahogany tabletop. It's been absolutely brilliant. I dread to think how much money I would have had to spend if I'd have had to buy this mahogany. It's like mahogany is the same as sapele. I think it's a bit, you know, when I'm dealing with mahogany furniture, like in my normal business, it always tends to be a bit darker. The old school, old antique mahogany. I think this is more of a sapele. The tabletop it come off was a vintage table, solid wood, really well made, but it was just beyond repair. But I sort of thought, you know what, it's going to go into, it's not being wasted, it's going to go into various projects. It's not going to landfill, it's not going to be burnt. I'm going to use it. So I'm just trimming these skeleton splines. Now, I think this is what you call them, skeletons. I'm calling them skeleton splines. I don't even know if that's the right term for them. Again, if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. So I'm going over, just gluing into all the little, if I see any gaps or anything like that, pushing a bit of glue into sort of some of the gaps and just fixing it, going over it. Something I'd never do in the past, but this is something I'm starting to do now, and I'll sand over everything, and it fills everything, and you don't know, honestly, like now I'm sanding, and where them little gaps was, and I filled it with glue, and the sawdust is getting in, it hides them all. I know they're there, but I guarantee you, nobody else will. So this is the base now. This is going to be a base it sits on. So I'm just adding a chamfer to this. There's no particular size rhyme or reason with a chamfer. It was something, an afterthought. The base was going to be something different at the beginning, but I thought I'll go with a bit more of a traditional base because of the wood I had. Just trimming off a little bit now for, this is going to be for the handle for the top. Yeah, I've had so much wood out of that tabletop, and I've still got some left. So what I would say is, if you find old furniture that's sort of beyond repair, it's a good way to go. Just make sure it's solid wood and not like veneered or something like that. You can get some really nice bits of mahogany and oak, and one of the bits of wood I'm sort of hard to find in furniture is like maple. I don't know about you guys in the US and Canada, but here in the UK, maple. I know the Aussies have all different sort of exotic woods and stuff like that over there as well. I've seen some of that Australian wood is really nice. So I'm just going in here, just taking my time, cutting in the round here. Checking it nice and easy. Table's been a godsend, I can clamp things to it now. So here's the bit I always dread when making a box, it's cutting the lid. Now I've learnt my lessons, this is getting better as well. I've learnt just to cut through on two sides, and then on the other two sides, just leave, don't cut all the way through, and then it'll hold it better. And you know, the gap when you cut it, it sort of fits sort of better. Not perfect, but better. I didn't get it perfect. Like I say, I'm not a top class carpenter, but you know, I'm not that. I'm an hobbyist. Amateur. We're all amateurs. Let's call it amateur. I don't know. What would you call yourself? What sort of woodworker would you class yourself? Let me know in the comments. Are you a full-blown carpenter that's been doing it all your life? A joiner, furniture maker? I'd love to know what all your backgrounds are in woodworking. And I'm just going through here. Now, these are the two cuts where I'm not going all the way through. I will saw the last bit with an handsaw. Now, this is the first time I've done it this way, so again, it's another learning curve for me. You've got to try these things, haven't you? So I'm just going in with my Japanese pull saw here and just getting that last, just that last bit. And then what I'll do is I'll sand it sort of flush to get it fitting sort of spot on. And let me tell you, it works out really well. I was happy with that, so that's how I go from the way forward with these. So I'm just putting in here a little tiny chamfer to create a shadow line, something else I weren't going to do on this build. But do you know what? I thought I was getting into it. I was getting so engrossed in this. I thought I'm just going to test myself, and if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. And I just thought, just do it. And this shadow line here, and again, another really nice addition I'm glad I went with. Now I'm just lining the box here with some of that plywood again, that really thin ply. The reason being I'm using that is it's nice and clean looking, and it you know, it gives off a clean appearance inside. I didn't stain it or anything like that. I just basically glued it in the end. I test fitted it first, made sure everything was nice and tight, and then just glued everything. And I left about that there's about 3/4 centimetre lip to accept the lid. As you can see, the test fit there, now it's all perfect. So on the base, I'm just adding some little, these were scraps of scrap. I thought I'll add it, bit more detail. Some little feet on the base, which will give it an added sort of look and dimension. So I glued and screwed them on. I've not bothered plugging anything on the bottom. I could go back and do that, I suppose, but there was no need really. It's not something you're ever going to see. And then if anybody wants to take the base off, it's easy enough for them to do it. So I'm sanding over everything here with a 240 grit. See that where it's off that cut, that spline there, you can see it where it's ever so slightly off. But there was no gaps in that corner anyway, so it didn't really sort of matter. And you don't notice, honestly, you don't notice it. I just know it because I've done it. Now, I'm using Danish oil here. It gets, in the end, it gets 3 coats. So I apply the first coat, leave it for a good hour or so, come back, wipe the excess off, let it dry, and then it has, like I say, it's sort of like a case of rinse and repeat. But just look at that mahogany pot there. And here's it's finished. Let me know in the comments what you think. I absolutely love this. Bringing it in, I banged it. You'll see a little sort of scar on the front. I banged it a little bit, but it's because it's soft wood. I wish I did the box actually in maple now, to be perfectly honest. I've got some maple. I was going to use it, but I thought, no, I'm going to save that for a project I've got in mind. But let me know in the comments what you think of this. I absolutely love it. I love them skeleton splines, everything about it. I know it's not perfect, but I'm happy with it. And don't forget, if you're an amateur woodworker, hobby woodworker, you can make this too. So get your tools out, get making something, get in that workshop, get motivated. And thanks for watching, and I will see you guys on the next video where I've got something really smart planned.